today on the Clicks and Giggles podcast, I have my sweet friend and colleague and a coach that I've brought in to coach me through certain seasons in my life, Jennifer Sise, here today. Jennifer, welcome.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be a blast.
Well, you are part of why this podcast came to be. So A, thank you. And B, I am so excited too. So I cannot do your bio and story justice. And so would you mind just starting to just tell everyone a little bit about you and then also how you got into entrepreneurship, because your story is so neat because you were in the ministry field.
Yeah, I would love to. So I am a time, business, and connection coach. And my heart is to help people, impact-oriented women specifically, make more of their time and grow their business while multiplying their impact and their income. But my heart really is for them to be able to live an intentional life, because I know that when you can really be working your business effectively and living your life intentionally, that everything will run more smoothly. And no one starts a business without their life in mind and wanting to live a more intentional life. For sure.
It's so smart. You helped us get our date nights planned and going and figuring out like my calendar, and we'll probably have to revisit that because my calendar's feeling a little crazy right now.
You have a lot going on, yes. Helping a lot of people.
Yes. And so, but it's true, you don't start your business from a place. I mean, some people of course are like, oh, I want to make money, but you do. Yeah. Most people look at their family and their life and their off season and off time and are like, how do I want to make the most of this? Oh, this business makes sense. And you don't want your business to rule your life, and vice versa. You don't need your home out of control and running your life. You need to be able to run it. So tell me more about how this coaching and leadership in your business came to be.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of years in ministry. I was in student ministry and in missions, and I did a lot of building teams and getting people ready to go serve and do a lot of different things. And I always sort of had this creative itch. And I really had so many opportunities to coach people and lead people, and it was all in the context of ministry. And as a mom, I have 22 and 24-year-old boys, and I had people asking me questions about my kids all the time. And how'd you get them to do this? I remember one of the funniest questions was, how do you get them to take a shower? And I was like, I just tell them to get in, you know? But I had opportunities for a lot of conversations, and I really had a heart to help people and serve people, obviously, because I was in ministry for such a long time. And the way that I actually got to move out of ministry into work was I started doing newsletters. I was a faster way to fat loss coach. And then I started doing newsletters for Olivia. And that kind of grew and multiplied, but all the while coaching people, helping people build connection and do all of those things. And then about 2 years ago, I had someone reach out to me and they said, hey, will you be my coach? And I said, let me think about that. And it didn't really kind of hit me that that's what I was really being called to do, actually, until I kind of pushed it away a little bit, which is what we do a lot. You know, we're like, oh, I think I'll just leave that over there. And so I decided to, and I took her on as my first client and have grown a coaching business and really have so much fun. And it just lights me up to help people see what's possible for them and help them help other people. And it's such a joy to get to do.
So good. What a cool journey, especially because you can still serve people through the ministry of your coaching, you know?
1,000,000%.
I love that. So how has, I know you talk about weaving in connection and time and business. How did that come to be? Did you just notice that some women just weren't balanced as far as the way they were running their business or their home, like kind of all or nothing in certain areas? And then you were like, wait, let's weave this together. Was that as big with your first client, or did it kind of evolve over time?
I think it's been there since the beginning. I know that connection fuels every area of your life. And I know that when you feel connected in your relationships, whether it's for your personal life and your work, that your life runs more smoothly because we are made for relationship. And so when we can cultivate those connections and be intentional about it, then everything feels better. We have more joy, we have more peace, we have more of all of the things that we want in our life, and we're more effective as
Mm,
wives, as friends, as sisters, as mothers, whatever
yeah.
season you're in, when you are more rooted in connection and you feel good about the connections that you have
Yeah.
and the investments you're making in those connections, it multiplies.
It's so good. I think about that with flying home tomorrow, and
Mm.
like Brad and I just had a great trip for his birthday. We're gonna do like, I mean, we're just gonna watch a show tonight for Valentine's Day and call it that, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and then getting together with my family, and it's like I've missed them. I've missed my niece, I've missed my nephew, and I know that that will fill a part of me that just FaceTime cannot. And I can also like get back here, get back to running, but kind of figuring out what priorities in this season do I need. And I'm like, I need a trip to Florida. Like that is what I need. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it's wild how it can get out of whack, and just focusing on what do my people need from me, and
Yeah.
and vice versa. It's so good for the soul. And you can still work amidst there. I'm having client meetings and doing all that good stuff, but I love that. So tell me, I
Well, at
know.
first, before I just want
Oh
to
yeah,
interrupt you really quickly because you are an amazing connector and you
thank
are
you.
so good at being intentional with connection.
Thank you.
And just even that you FaceTime your niece and nephew and things like that, you do a
Mm,
really good job of laying this awesome foundation of connection, even from a distance, so that when you
yeah.
are in person, it doesn't seem like you've missed a beat.
Thank you. No, that has been the thing that's been most important to me with moving from Florida, is that they would know me. That was really hard. I moved to Georgia the like my niece's first birthday. And
Mm.
so I just remember they like let me put her down to bed, and I just like cried driving home, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing?" And also it is worth it being here with Brad, but I just was like, I have to find a way. And so once I moved, I would eat before my niece went to preschool. We'd eat lunch together every couple
Oh,
days on FaceTime. She couldn't even talk, but we're just eating, and I'm talking to her. And now with Truett, my nephew, so Blake's 4, Truett's almost 2, and they just know, and they asked to call me, which is like the best thing
yeah.
ever. And Blake left me now. If you've updated your iPhone, you can like leave a voicemail or a video if they don't answer FaceTime. And she left me
Oh,
a video the other day that said, "I love you even though I'm frustrated that I didn't answer," which is hilarious. So they know.
I love
Like
that.
we talked
Yeah.
yesterday, and so she doesn't understand what Georgia is, but I'm like, that's okay. You'll understand one day.
Yeah.
And
And you're
so
being so intentional.
yeah, it's the best. And like I actually just interviewed my therapist on the podcast. It's gonna be so good. We were talking about relationships, and just how she knows that I've struggled with like there's so many people in my life I love and that I want to talk to and that I want to have a relationship with. And there's different seasons where I'm like, I'm just keeping my head above water, want to serve my clients well, be a good wife, and maybe I'm checking in with friends every couple weeks. And so she's
Yeah.
like, there are boundary times where you're like kind of protecting your heart and your soul to be like, hey, I'm head down, but the people who
Yeah.
know and love me know I love them, that kind of thing.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think, what we were talking about too, I'm sure you agree, like there's seasons of like a sprint or a marathon or like a slower pace, but it's kind
Yes.
of taking a step back to be like, oh my gosh, I've been sprinting for 16 weeks or whatever.
Yes.
So, and I know something you do, which is so smart with people, is a time audit. And so, without
Yes.
giving away everything that you do, what is something that someone could do today, kind of an action step to start looking at where am I spending my time?
Yeah.
What am I doing? What would you say to that?
Number one, we are terrible at guessing where our time goes. And we think we know where it goes. But
Yes.
until we really diligently like dial in and track it,
Yeah.
we have no idea where it's going. And so something that someone could do today, this is the first thing I would do, is have them tally and track their distractions. How many
Ooh,
times they get distracted in a day, because the average person gets interrupted 50 to 60 times a day. And it takes you 23 and a half minutes to get back to the level of focus you were at when you got interrupted.
stop.
And yeah, so I'm doing an exercise and a challenge I'm doing right now. And one of the things they were doing is tracking their distractions. And they were surprised at what was causing most of their distractions. They thought before they started the exercise, they knew what the distractions were. And after they did the exercise, they were like, oh, wow. Yeah, I need to address some things. And so the first thing I would
Wow.
do is kind of just tally it for about 24, 48 hours and see how many times you get distracted and what you're getting distracted by.
Gosh, that's so good. Brad and I were listening to your podcast at Christmas time, driving between family to family and state. And one of your things about one of your podcasts about distractions, he and I both looked at each other because he's a pharmacist, and he gets interrupted by his staff during the day. And
Yes.
once he heard that stat of how long it takes you back to refocus, he's like, that's like borderline dangerous, in certain
Yes,
industries.
it
So
really is.
to realize like, hey, I'm in the zone. And so he needs to take what he learned from that and kind of talk to his team about it. Because, it's sweet little interruptions of like, hey, look at this picture. Hey, this happened. And he's like, and I'm, you know, in the
Counting
zone.
drugs.
Yeah, I'm in the zone verifying things. So but I even think about that for someone who has a desk job, a tech job, where these distractions, it does add up. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm adding enough up in my head right now, but I've
Yeah.
really tried to start doing like do not disturb on my phone during the day, just
Yeah.
because I'll get lost in like, oh, especially having ADHD, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you order lunch, you let DoorDash through the gate. Oh, I need to get this fixed with maintenance. Oh, that, it's like a rabbit
Yes.
trail of things. And it's just not, that's not the time to work on it. So I love that idea of just starting to tally the distractions and then kind of go through them. Can you talk more about your challenge? Because we're going to link in the show notes the next one, which is upcoming. And then if people listen to this later, they can get in at another time. But can you talk more about your challenge, how it came to be, and just how it's serving women so well? I'm super excited for you with it.
Well, thank you so much. And I am so excited about it. How it came to be was started just really asking my clients what the transformation was when we worked together. And I
Mm,
really wanted to dial in and make sure I was continuing to serve clients well. And the common thread was that I really helped them change the way they work. And so
mm,
I kind of pulled that thread. And so it's the 5-day change the way you work challenge
good.
because we need to learn how to run our days so they don't run us. We
Mm,
need to really understand where our time is going and
yeah.
formulate effective strategies around it. And it's different for everyone. So every time management tool doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
And every strategy doesn't work effectively for everybody. So it's really getting the chance for them to dial in on where they're coming from. And really, I know,
Yeah.
with my coaching, it's very curated and personal. And so that's part of the challenge. And the idea is after they go through the challenge, they can ditch that hustle, the 24/7 hustle that
Mm,
the culture puts on us,
right.
and spend more time with the people who matter most and have the
Yeah.
opportunity to do more of what they love. Because how, as an entrepreneur, especially, how quickly do you just let what you love to do go away? You
Right.
just stop doing it because you can work 24/7 if you're not careful. And
Right.
so it really teaches them how to set apart time and really get more effective at their work.
I love that. No, I'm excited for people to get in the challenge and to just participate and really change the way they work so that they can free up their day and free up their time to do the things they love, because that's what I know we were voice memoing about that a while ago. It
Yeah.
was like we were talking about your challenge and I was like, it's not only that I would get to spend time with the people I love more and more intentional carved out time, not just like plopping on the couch, closing my laptop and like talking to Brad for 30 minutes before bed because I worked late time. It's like,
Yep.
yeah, it's intentional with him planning something, enjoying it. And the other thing is getting to do what I want to do and fun things for
Right.
me, So I was like, yes, yes, relationships and just myself of like, oh, the weather's getting nicer. I want to start going on more walks outside, or like going and doing like half day adventures once a month, like silent, bring my phone, but not be distracted and work. Like just things that I
Yes.
love and like getting away. Because my therapist always encouraged me, and I've never done a full day, but she encouraged me to do like a day of like an hour of silence a week. So, and
Mm,
then it was like, what was it? And then it added up to, no, it was Yeah, and then it was a whole freaking day a month of just solitude and silence, which scares me in a good way because I'm like, oh, I know what that
Yes,
could do
put it
for
on
my
your
brain.
calendar right now.
Yeah, so it
It
was
would
like,
be amazing.
so yeah, I think it was like 10 minutes a day. So I know I've seen like Emily Judice talks about eating lunch in silence and just regulating her nervous system and
Yep.
like savoring every bite. So I'm like, maybe I'll do that as my 10 minutes a day and then an hour a week, which I love. I'm like, I could do that. And then a freaking day a month, which is just, I love it. So stay tuned. But
That's a brilliant idea.
isn't that awesome? Just to like reset. And a lot of people do it as like their Sabbath. They don't have their phone and whatnot, you know, available for apps and all that. But it's just crazy how out of hand it can get when
Yes.
technology is running. Like, I just even think about kids and like them getting a phone. I saw someone who, I don't even know who it was, that their daughter got their license and then she got her first phone, which I agree, if you're driving, you need to have some sort of safety. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just forget the good old days, like before I got my cell phone, when it was like,
Right.
you're just like doing your thing. And now it's like people can always find you. And like, it is,
Yep.
that's why I don't have an Apple Watch, because people used to know when I'd work out. And granted, I was working out more back then, but like people, like I would go to 9 Round, the kickboxing gym, and like people would like, you know, cheer them on in the workout or ask how my workout was. And it got to a point where I was like, oh my gosh, everyone knows my every move. And so now it may look online like I put a lot of my life out there, but it's like there's at least 50% that's private and no one has any idea. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It is wild with time how it can get out of hand. So I think that's brilliant. And I mean, we've talked about this too. I believe that time is like the most important currency, and like time is
1,000,000%.
money. And so it's just like to waste it is so scary. And then also to get hyper fixated on it too is like over the top. So for you to come up with something where it's like, let's audit it, let's change this. And I love that. Do you mainly work with people who have kids? I feel like most of or is it a mix?
It's kind of a mix. And, you know, it's really people who need to learn how to set apart their time, because you can't make time or find time. You have to set it apart. And I do have a lot of moms, but I do have people who don't have kids, or their kids are grown and they're like, whoa, I'm catching up. Like I wish I would have known this sooner. And it's that hindsight that they're like, they want to kind of live it out now.
Yeah, make up for lost time, for lack of better words. That's really neat. Yeah, I think about how I'm trying a new schedule now where I only book meetings on Tuesdays or Thursdays, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, like I just have to, I can't, nothing is like set in stone, right? It can always be changed. So I'm like, I'm giving that a whirl. I tried to be like a theme day of the week girl. I cannot. I'm too in so many different buckets, but I love how you said like with your coaching, like it's like try this or try that, and like it's curated, because I think right now 2 days a week of straight meetings is good, because I've just realized bouncing back and forth from meeting to focused work to not, like you said, the 23.5 minutes you feel it. So that's my latest endeavor. So
That's really wise. That's really smart. 1,000,000%. Because you're setting apart time, and you know that those days are going to take a whole different kind of energy than the other days.
Yeah.
And so you're just setting it apart. You know that you need to be like ready to be in it on Tuesday and Thursday, like camera ready to, and all of those things. And it allows you to shift your, like, kind of just the balance and boundaries that you have. And you can say, oh, I'm really sorry, I only take meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
I know. It's been like kind of scary to say that, but it's been good, especially with having a family one day. I know that when I talk with Alexis Greco, she works Tuesdays and Thursdays. She has a sitter and like it's go time. So I'm like, let's try this and see. And then not having meetings on Mondays. I just started that. That's 10 out of 10. I've made Wednesdays my like appointment day, and then I obviously am working in between. But and then Friday is like if something comes up in a launch, I have margin, which I have not had, for a while. So
that's brilliant. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, it's like such, thanks for the permission too, and talking about this. Like if someone's listening and they're like, I don't know where I'm spending my time, this is crazy. Like just start with an audit and try something. Obviously do
Yep.
Jennifer's challenge too, but try something in the meantime to not feel so overly, stressed and overwhelmed about it, or like, this is just how it is. Like, no, the beauty of it is you can change things. Or, if you
Yes.
are more of an entrepreneur working a 9 to 5 for someone else, then you can really get strategic with your time, 5 to 9 p.m. What does that look like? What are you saying yes to in these commitments, in your life? That's something I would love to talk about too, is like, how do you decide what to say yes or no to? We were just talking
Yeah.
about, something we have coming up in the spring that we're both potentially going to. And it's like, how do you decide? Like, do you kind
Yeah.
of have a filter that you run things through for your family, or what does that look like?
Yeah, for sure. So when my kids were growing up, we had a family mission statement and
Mm,
everything was filtered through that. And now we kind of have a decision list. And
wow.
here's what we really want. And is this going to facilitate that and help that or make that more possible? Or is it
Yeah.
going to detract from that and take away from that?
Mm,
And I think the thing too is that, you know, most of the time, your first response to the decision when you're my age, because I'm 51, so I've had a lot of, life under my belt. My first gut response is usually pretty spot on.
yeah.
But when you have that decision list and you can kind of run things through that and give yourself a beat, always give yourself a beat to make a decision and decide. And while other people are on a timeline and you might feel the pressure to make the
Mm,
decision faster, you don't need more time really to make a decision. You need more information typically, but you
yeah.
need to give yourself the time to make the decision. And you have to give yourself permission to say no. Because
Mm,
when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else.
yeah.
And you need to be really diligent about what those things are and give yourself the chance to be able to say yes to the things that you really want to because you said no when you needed
Right.
to.
Gosh, I've been like realizing that what I've been saying no to is for some reason, so I got the Aura ring and I'm
Mm.
obsessed. Like, I fought getting it for so long because I was like, I feel like it looked, oh yeah, we talked about that brunch that one day a
Oh,
while
yeah, yeah,
ago.
yeah, and you got a 91 on your sleep.
Yes, the
That's
other
an
day.
A.
I know. And then today I got an 88. I'm sleeping in the guest room. I gotta get back in our bed, but you can hear my cough still. Jennifer's like, go sleep in bed with your husband. I always, whenever I'm sick, she knows that. She's like, why are you not sleeping in bed with Brad? But excuse me, here you go. Whenever I'm sick, I don't want to get him sick because he has to go
Yeah,
into work, and then if his team's sick, so I'll go
yeah,
sleep in the guest room. And last night he didn't get home till like 9. At 9:30, I was like, I love you, but I'm so dedicated to this ring and this sleep score. But it's showing me, and I knew this from my Fitbit, but Aura gives so much more detail, that it takes me a really long time to get in REM sleep. So I
Mm,
almost need more time sleeping and in bed to actually get the percentage of REM and rest. And so Brad used to always give me crap like, oh my gosh, you're in bed like all day. You're like sleeping so much. But then now that he's seeing it, like, we're like, oh my gosh, like, to get deep sleep, like, I literally have to be in bed for like 9 hours or
yeah,
10. And so I'm like, oh crap, I gotta start going to bed earlier. And so I'm trying to figure out what that looks like. But I've realized, like, by saying yes to certain things, I'm saying no to restorative sleep. And so it's like, no
yeah,
wonder at times I've needed to take a nap or whatnot. So I agree 100%. Like, what are you, by saying yes to something, what are you saying no to? And
yeah. What
so,
and who are you saying no to?
yeah, 100%. And in this
Mhm.
season, it's definitely interesting because the longer meeting days, like tonight, I meet with my coach. She's in Los Angeles. So that's a
Okay.
whole other thing. But I love working with clients on the other coast because I feel like I get to live another life with them. Like, even though it's only 3 hours. But
Yes.
now I'm her client. So we meet till like 8 p.m. once a week. But
Okay.
I'm like, that's worth it because that's time on my business. What's the future of this? What am I learning? And she has 3 little ones, and she's built an agency that I want to have one day as a mom. So I'm like, that I'm fine to say no to an earlier day off of work because I know that this is like doing work that's like paving a good future to be a good mom. That's worth,
1,000,000%. You're saying yes to something that's bringing a lot of fruit,
Yeah.
and you're investing in your future self by having those conversations and being coached by her
Yes.
until 8 p.m. at night.
Yeah.
And when you look down the road, you'll be like, yes, that
Oh,
was worth the investment, a million
one
percent.
1,000,000%, because
Yeah.
if I try to meet, what I've learned is like if I try to meet with my coaches amidst serving clients during the day, it just gets lost in the shuffle and I'm not in the right brain space versus like I take a minute, I work with them. I think that's the other thing about managing your calendar and time is like almost time blocking when you're the client versus like you have to be the
Yep.
service provider person of service, because it's really hard to switch back and forth. And so that's something I've learned to be like, okay, is this a like in my business in the weeds with clients call day, or is this like, hey, we're getting stuff done to further the mission? Like I love how you said the fruit of it, like then yeah. It's worth it all day. And I mean, we're in a season of our marriage where Brad's like, get it, like run after it, which is so fun.
Yes.
And then we also will look at each other sometimes and be like, I mean, like the trip we just took, we were like, we got to get away. Like this is nuts. But
and you have to set apart that time. Like I tell people, like, the sooner you can get a trip on the calendar, even if it's far, so like even those days of silence and even the half day of adventure,
yes.
if you put it on your calendar, then you will protect that time if you set it apart. But if you're like, oh, I'll find the time, or I'll make the time, you never will.
It will never appear. No, 100%. Like you have to fight for the white space and then decide, is it worth something getting added and interrupting that? You be the judge. Like you said, what is the filter you put it through? No, I love that. I actually have to change my Calendly to not get more than like X amount of meetings booked per day, because I realize just because I have a whole, chunk of time doesn't mean I want to have 45 meetings in one day.
And you really, like, over the last several years and even the last several months, you've been getting clearer on what you want. And when you're really clear on what you want, then you can take the actions towards that. And so the 100%. Clearer you get and the clearer you and Brad get, like, you're taking action towards all of those things. And it might not be something that you want for tomorrow, but you want it for a year from now. And you know that you have to set yourself up for it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Last night he could just tell I was tired and I was like, oh, I would be willing to make X amount a month less for X amount more rest or time back. And he was like laughing. He's like, you're tired. So I know I am tired. He's like, go get after it, because we know the ultimate goal. But, when I was talking to my therapist, and I can't wait for you to hear the episode too, we were talking about burnout and like, what does burnout look like? And so it's funny because like based on her definition and different things, I'm like, oh, I'm just tired sometimes. And Macy coached me on it once. I was like, I think I'm burnt out. And then like after like 5 minutes of coaching, I was like, you know what? This was in December. I was like, our anniversary is this weekend. I'm just tired. I need to like sleep in and take a nap. I'm good, because we were talking about how like the real definition, like, a characteristic of burnout is more like apathy, like not caring, just kind of like whatever. I'm like, oh, I'm not that. It's more overscheduled and you're like, okay, let's rein this in. So no, that's not burnout, but just like holy moly,
exhausted.
Yeah, ready for
you need some silence.
Oh, and I think about like when you talk about getting clarity, and I wonder if you'd agree with this too. I have always been like, no, in the past, I was like, I need clarity on this. I need to figure this out. And then I realized that like taking action is what gives you the clarity, because you figure
1,000,000%.
You figure out like, oh, I didn't like that. And even today I was just voice memoing Olivia and I said, you know what? I think that all of my clients that I take on in the future have to have a live component to their offer, one of their offers. I'm not doing straight evergreen anymore. And because I just so deeply believe in the value of a little one-on-one time, even if it's to a group, and
and I literally, let me just put in a plug right here, because I would do whatever you say.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
So people need to like get their mind right and get their attitude right and do what
Yeah.
Jordan says. Okay. I'm
Thank
not
you.
kidding.
I just was
You're
like,
brilliant.
thank you. I just went and I actually laid down for 5 minutes before we recorded and did like deep breaths and chilled out for a
Yes.
second. And I like was like, I just am having this epiphany that people more than ever need a little bit of like the one-on-one touch, and it makes it so much
Yep.
easier to sell, like so much easier to sell when they know they get a little piece of you. So that was my latest clarity, but it's like it took years of like, holy moly, if you would have asked me to write out who my ideal client is, like when people ask me, I'm like, I don't know. I just am like, it's a good person with a great offer, or it's a great person with a good offer, like, and then you
Yes.
can refine it. But I think people get like, holy moly. I mean, you obviously coach women, and like you've seen people spinning their wheels. Like, I think that it's like one of my good traits and bad traits is I don't slow down. Like, I'm freaking bulldozer and I figure it out later. So it's like, it's good because I don't ever get stuck spinning my wheels. It's also bad because sometimes you bulldoze through what you probably could have been more cautious to get through, right? But I mean, I see people spinning their freaking wheels on like my ideal
Oh,
client avatar or this or that, and it's like, throw the spaghetti at the wall. Like,
yeah. I'm going to
let's
need you to take some action right now.
yeah, and like
Get it.
you don't know. I mean, I've seen this was more in the beginning before I really wanted to work with proven offers, was when people would be like, I have the best course. I'm so excited. Like, let's sell it. And like no one buys it. And it's not that it's not a good course, it's that it's not what people needed. And so like
Yep.
rather than having the conversations and like making little offers to test things and then be like, oh, this is what they're needing, this is what they're like, holy moly, I could have made my course 5 years ago. And I mean, I
Yeah.
think I kind of started to. And I remember Chelsea Winstead was like, no offense, but like, who's asked you for your course? And I was like, literally no one. And she was like, well, then who do you expect to sell it to? And so she was like, why don't you just get so good at your craft, and then people will tell you what they need from you and you determine if you want to do it. And so it wasn't until last year that people were like, hey, do you have a course? Do you have a course? Would you ever teach this? And I'm like, the scarcity mindset in me was like, never. And then over time, I was like, okay, a lot of people have asked me for this. Like, I must need to look at this. And so I feel like it, I mean, and I know this is like a little bit of a tangent, but like with time, people spend so
Yeah.
much time in their business like planning and scheming versus like get in the conversation with the person you want to help.
Yes.
You
A
know?
million trillion %. And they do this wondering. They're like in this, like maybe in this and that. And they're like, but nothing's happening. And I'm like, well, you're not taking any action. You're not having any conversations with people. And when you just kind of sit in that
Yeah.
pool of wishing, you can't get to doing without taking action.
Yeah.
And the only way out of overwhelm is action. The only
Mm,
way to like, action breeds clarity, like you said, for sure. And the only way out of that feeling of like, oh, is this going to work? You're never going to know until you try it. And
right.
you have to just be willing to fail and willing to try new things and willing to listen to the people. You have to listen to the people.
Yeah. And no one knows, like I always say this, and like I want to encourage people, no one knows if you change your offer. No one knows if you do a
No.
launch and one person signed up or no one did. You get data that you can take back and be like, oh, this is not a good time of year to launch this. Or, oh, every objection I heard was that like they don't want to spend the time on this right now and
Yep.
they can't attend at this time. Okay, let me make a decision. Like, it's
Or
everything
the
is,
title's terrible.
yes, like 100%. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like you don't have to be married to every little thing. And I think about like, I used to offer like comprehensive all marketing packages, and then like I changed to just ads, and I was so nervous. And it's like, oh no, now I'm known as the person to go to for ads. And like I still do
Yep.
consult marketing, but like people you just try it and you just
Yes.
literally will not know. And so I'm like, I know people talk about messy action. It's like, yeah, just do it and get an answer. And
Yep.
it's not going to be as bad as you think. What's worse is if you look back and are like, wow, I wish I would have launched that 6 months ago.
A
You know?
million %. A million %. And try it more than once. Like sometimes it's just like only 10% of your audience sees your stuff. So
Yeah.
it wasn't getting in front of them, or you need
Yeah.
ads or whatever. And just try it more than once and commit to trying it and know that it's not going to be perfect the first time around. And that's okay. And that's when you're going to learn and grow and be able to help more people. And I think
Yeah.
about all the things that like, I mean, I did some pretty scrappy stuff like when I was still on staff. My
Yeah.
husband lost his job a couple times, and like I wrote cookbooks and I did all these different things because I like had this skill set. I could apply it. I sold it, did it, and I needed to at the time. But like, what if I wouldn't have done
Right.
that? What if I wouldn't have like said yes when Olivia was like, "Hey, can you help with these newsletters or whatever?" And I just tried it and I didn't have to do it forever. And now I don't do newsletters.
Yeah.
It's not
Right.
a thing. Like
Yeah.
I'm coaching people instead, and I'm running challenges and helping people make more of their time so that they can really live the life they want.
Right.
But what if I would have been like,
I don't
"Oh,
want to do that.
I don't want to
Right.
do that," or "I'm not going to try it," or if we've all had great coaching clients and not so great coaching clients. And what if, you can't let one
One
thing
back.
dictate
Oh,
everything.
and I say the same thing with coaches, right? Because
A
like
million%.
yeah, yes. And so it's like what is it, like one bad apple doesn't spoil the bunch, and like
100%.
there's something so good too about the personal responsibility of being like, man, that was really unfortunate that happened, but also I'm responsible for the actions I take and moving forward, and like let's freaking get it. Like I
Yes,
will
let's
say
freaking get it. You have a choice.
one of my favorite things too is thinking about, not favorite things, that sounds bad when I say what I'm going to say. One of the things I enjoy is thinking about people spinning their wheels while I'm freaking taking action. And so even if I feel unsteady, I'm like, well, I'm ahead of the game right now, so let's just try. Or like, while so and so's, editing their website copy for the 50th time, I'm out here, going to this event, chatting with these people, doing these follow-ups, like that. In guide culture language, Macy and Kat would call it like stirring the pot, right? Like
A
getting
million%
after it.
stir it.
And
Walk around with a spoon.
yes, like, and I think about like I've started translating like that, yes, but I look at my day too as like revenue generating or not. And so I view client work is revenue generating because they are the ones paying right now. So that's like number one is, are my clients happy? Going through the list of the roster, perfect, checking in, how's it going? So that's one. Client facing stuff is revenue generating because the revenue is already there, and
Yep.
easier to just keep it recurring than to go out and get a bunch more clients. And then
I mean,
next,
1,000,000%. Like it's easier to keep than it is to get.
to go find, yes. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's looking at, the leads list, and that's where the time is spent next, right? Is so I'm like, hey, well, y'all are out, not you, but other people are out there spinning the wheels looking at their copy. Let's make sure clients are happy. Let's make sure, our leads are taken care of. How's it going? How was that challenge, Jennifer? Tell me more. What
Yes.
would
Do
you
the
like to
follow
get?
up.
Yeah, would you like to get more people in your next challenge? Like there's conversations that can be had. And then anything else like admin or other certain things that I'm not as good at, that's outsourced. Or, oh gosh, I sent client Valentine's gifts and I can't wait for my clients to get them. They're adorable. And you should have seen me at my kitchen counter. You would have been like, this is literally the worst of your time, because I'm just like an assembly line of things. And it was like, that was fun for me. But 9 times out of 10, I'm going through and being like, what's revenue generating, stir the pot, serving clients. And then, so I think if people are listening and they're like, oh my gosh, I have not been spending my time in the best way, just know
Whew.
you can switch it really quick. I
Right
love
now, like right this minute, you can like turn off this podcast and go take action. And
Yeah.
there's something better than like making excuses or even like being like, I don't want to do that. We all have to do things we don't want to do.
Yeah.
And what do you ultimately want? Dial in on what you really want. And then you're going to
Yeah.
be really willing to take those actions if you get really specific about what you want.
Yeah, it's so true. Like, I know every month how many people I want to sign on, who I want to retain. Like, it is a number amount I want to gross. Like, it is very much, I just know. And so it's easy to keep my head down and okay, look at the scoreboard sometimes, but keep going. Like, even with the podcast, like, you know how you get the emails from Buzzsprout that's like, you had this many listeners or you had that. I
Uh-huh.
was like looking at that too much, like when the email would come through. And now I'm like, I'm just going to unsubscribe. And like, I just as long as one person is enjoying this, like, it's fun for me. I'm getting to chat with girlfriends and colleagues and just having good conversation, putting it out there. Like, it's just a reminder of like the scoreboard will be there, but like get your head in the work in the
Yes.
game, and everything will shake out the way it should if you're doing the right, needle moving things. So no,
If you're doing the right things.
I love that. So will you I know you have a challenge coming up, so I'll link that in the show notes. And then you also have your podcast in 9 minutes with Jennifer
Yep.
Sise, where you give people actionable tips in 9 minutes, which I love, short and sweet, and there's such good podcast episodes. So we'll link that too. And before we head to the fun part, the giggles part, not that we haven't had fun today, and ask you a couple fun questions. This is a question I've been asking, I love the answer I've been getting. Where do you see women leaving money on the table right now, whether they're an entrepreneur? What is just some kind of advice you could give with that question?
I love this question so much. And I think there are 5 things that come to mind right away when I think of this. They are giving away too much for free. So they're just giving away all the things and they're like, I'm just going to gather up the leads and I'm just going to give the things away for free. Yep, I'm helping them. I'm serving them. They aren't outsourcing soon enough. They stay in the weeds and don't outsource the things that really don't maximize their time or move the needle because it feels less risky to live in the weeds. Feels less risky when we're in the weeds doing the things that don't really move the needle for us that other people are gifted at.
Right. And you're staying busy, but
Yep.
It's busy may not be productive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. They're underpricing, so they're not charging enough. They don't take the time, they don't set apart the time to know their numbers. So they don't know how,
like what they're even really making at the end
what
of the day.
What they're even really making, and if they're charging enough for their time and they don't break that down. And this one like just gets me in the heart. And this is one of the things that I've coached so many women through is lack of belief. They don't have a deep enough belief. So they need to just borrow, like I lend people my belief for just a little bit. And then they just get over that hump. And then they're, writing books and building brands and doing all the things. And, but I think that lack of belief is one of the biggest roots of money being left on the table by amazing, talented women who can really go after it. And they just stay in the weeds because it's not as risky. And they do that because they have a lack of belief.
Wow. The weeds are comfy, right?
Oh,
You feel important and I'm convicted right now because I'm in the weeds on a couple things I shouldn't be, because there's way smarter people on my team, right? And or there's way smarter people out there that they could outsource to. And so it makes you feel safe and important. But the truth is, nothing good ever gets done from a comfort zone. So
nothing.
Yeah. So to encourage them to get out of their comfort zone. And today Jennifer Sise is loaning you her belief in you.
Yeah.
So take that. And no, I love that so much. Well, let's go to the giggle side of Clicks and Giggles. So tell me some things. You have a fun life. You have 2 grown boys. You have a sweet husband. So what are some of the things you guys do for fun and you do as an entrepreneur to pour back into yourself and then your family as well?
Yeah, my favorite thing to do with my kids and my husband is to go on trips. And my husband and I just went on a trip to Anna Maria Island, Florida, where you sent me the donut experiment gift card. It was so awesome.
Good.
And I did not take my computer out for 5 days. Okay. I literally didn't touch my computer. That wasn't my plan because I obviously took my computer with me. I did not touch it. It was amazing.
Good.
And last year at this time, last weekend, back to Super Bowl weekend, my kids and husband and I, we were in Nashville. And we went to the Colony House concert at the Ryman. So I love to go to concerts and travel and go on trips. And then I just love to like share meals with my family. and I love to just try new things with them, and they're just so much fun, and it's so much fun having grown kids, and yeah, so much fun. You
I
know, being
love
a mom is my favorite thing ever, so
No, I love
it's
it. And
so fun.
when we travel, I call you travel mom because you always have I did buy a travel like extension cord for my suitcase.
I
I
love
did.
it.
Yes, so I have it now with me. It's lovely. And then I've started taking some of your travel tips to like simplify just being on the road so much, like having an extra sound machine in there and another
Yes.
makeup bag and things to make it easier. But no, I
It's a
love
game changer.
100%. That's a whole other podcast episode I feel like we could do is like
Our
on
friends call me MacGyver
that is
when I'm on a trip with them.
No, it's true. I'm like, oh, Jenifer, this happened, or and then the portable charger. I do have one of those now, and then I got Brad one for his birthday too, because I was like, we cannot have our phones dying. Like it's 2024.
No.
We need to have this, and we can. No, I love that,
Immediately.
and just the culture you've built for your family, and that you and Greg have built for your boys. It's like that's the thing. Is like you're helping people in business and in their home. It all goes together, but it's about more than just time. Time is what you use to build a legacy. And so I love it so much.
Thank you for saying that.
No, thank you so much for being here today. I'm like, I just love it. And in the show notes, we'll have Jenifer's next challenge linked, ways you can find her. And then before you sign off, is there anything else you can think of?
No, I
It's
just
been
thank
so
you so
good.
much for having me. It was so much fun and I love it. And one thing I didn't mention is that I do in-person experiences through the Restart Collective.
Yes.
So if anybody wants to get away to get it done, when you were talking about traveling, that made me think of it. And
Yes.
you know, it's about setting apart the time to get away to get it done. But Jordan, I'm just so excited for you and for this whole audience that you're going to build here and all the people who get to hear from you and hear your wisdom. And you have such insight into so many things, and you're an ads genius, but beyond that, you are such a beautiful person and such an amazing connector. And I am so excited to get to watch you continue to just grow and thrive and serve and just share with so many people and help them share what they do, because you are such a gift to them.
Thank you. It's a gift to be able to help good people with good offers. And yes, like you said, if you are hearing this and you're like, I have time, I need to work better, and you want to get away to get it done, definitely click in the show notes too to learn about some opportunities to travel with Jenifer, to just put your head down and get to work.
Yeah.
I think it's so genius and good. Well, thank you for being here today, and I can't wait to hear what everyone thinks of this episode.